In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Santini Giant Facet Fountain Pen. I'll go over the specs, I will do a writing sample, and I'll tell you what I like and don't like about this pen coming up. Blake here with Blake's Broadcast. On this channel, I review fountain pens, paper, and ink, and as always, I put links in the show notes in the description below. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, it really helps out my channel. Alright, let's get on with the review. Here we have the Santini Giant Faceted number 8 nib fountain pen in the Venezia ebonite, and this is a pen that I special ordered from Santini. This is a limited edition of 33 pieces. The retail price for this pen was 810 euros with, I believe it was a $20 or maybe $30 upcharge for the flexy cursive italic nib. Now, for those of you that don't know, Santini has been around since 1998. They are one of the few companies in Italy making their own nibs in-house. They also make the nibs for the Ancora brand, and if you ever see one of those pens, you will notice that the nib stamping looks similar, but they are very interesting in that they give you a lot of options. You can have a super flexible nib, a flexi nib, you can have architect grinds, all done from the factory, and the pens, from what I can tell, are pretty much made to order. The cursive italic flexi nib on this one took a couple of weeks to get. I think when you do with a more normal flexi nib or a standard non-flexi 18 karat gold nib, the lead time is more like 5 to 10 days. So that's kind of interesting. This is my second Santini ever. I did a review of Santini Libra with, I believe, a flexi fine nib quite a while ago. I'll put a link to that up in the corner. But this is a much more premium pen. That Santini Libra, I think, was in like the 300 euro range, whereas this is 810. This has 8 facets. It's a pretty good looking pen. It's a big pen. I do like the ebonite that they use. They have a lot of very interesting ebonite colors. Let's walk through the pen here. Style-wise, 8 faceted sides. The ebonite seems to be pretty well finished. Now, the ebonite doesn't necessarily line up with like the cap and the body, and I do notice that the piston knob, I don't know, doesn't really even seem to match at all. Like this is pink and blue, whereas the rest of the body is black and beige and red with a bit of orange here. So I don't know if that was a mistake. I asked Santini about it and they said that's normal. So you just might get mismatched parts on your pen. Shape-wise, we do have these little funnel tops on the finial and at the tail, but they're pretty shallow. Interestingly, there is this gold ring on the top, and we have a very, I think, kind of fat looking but Italian style roller clip here. The whole thing is just a bit kind of bulky looking. The roller clip, actually I haven't even tried this, it does roll, so that's beaten out that Omas that I got recently, but looks wise, this pen is, I think, pretty good looking. The clip lets it down a little bit. The cap ring here has Santini's logo here, which is like a circle with a square inside of another circle. Not my favorite looking logo. They do one that kind of has something like a Greek key or fret, but I couldn't get it on the faceted model. One thing I will point out is the cap ring is a bit proud of the body, and it's not exactly even across the pen, so I do wish this was fitted a bit more tightly into the cap of the pen. That's getting pretty picky though, I will say. There is a taper on the body towards the tail here, and I don't know if this will show up on camera, but it should say Santini there, Italia, and you can see this is number 28 of 33. And then we have the piston knob here. It's actually this whole back piece, so there's like this transition ring and then this sort of coin edge ring, which I think is a nice detail. But unlike the cap band, this ring here is actually just perfectly round. So you can see it's not really faceted, so you definitely have a lip or an edge there that you can touch when you run your fingers over it. Now, taking off the cap, well, I guess we could see how many turns it takes to get this thing off. A little bit more than one is what it looks like. And we have a grip section here, which has a pretty small step down to the threading. The threading is smooth feeling, nothing sharp there. It is round. The colors here are a bit different. We have lots of taupe and sort of like an anthracite color here. And then we have a ring on the grip section. There's a little step down here kind of in the middle of it. And then we have this ring again with that Santini logo. And I find this is where I hold the pen. I can't say I love that I'm touching this ring with these pretty deep indentations. I don't know how well this is going to hold up over time. I actually don't find it to be the most comfortable. Now, I've had Omas pens which have a ring on their section, and I didn't find them bothersome, but this one I don't really love, so I kind of wish this wasn't there. I do believe there are facet models that don't have a cap ring here, and I would kind of urge people to go for that over this one just from a comfort perspective. Now we have the big number 8 gold nib here. You'll notice that the color of the nib is not perfectly matching with the trim. The trim is a bit more yellow, this plated trim versus the solid 14 karat gold. Now, one thing that should be noted about these pens, these nibs, Santini says that if you want the most flexible nib, you go for the standard 14 karat yellow gold option. If you do the dual color one, which is what this was originally specified with, at least on the product page, you get less flexibility, and then if you do the rhodium plating, you have even less flexibility. So if you're after the most flexy nib, go for the solid single tone 14 karat gold nib. The design here is pretty nice. We have this, you can see it says Italia here. There's a tiny little hallmark on the side, and then we have a Santini logo with the year 1998, the year of their founding. And then we can see it says 585 for 14 karat gold. And then we have a little bit of scroll work up at the top. The shape of the nib, it's a decent looking nib. You know, one of my criticisms, I think, in the previous Santini video I did is that the stamping, I actually don't know if this is stamped or laser engraved here, but if it looks sort of like somewhere in between the two. I think it probably is stamped, but it's just kind of a shallow stamp that just doesn't have the same quality, I think, as I'm used to on, say, like here's a Pelican M800 nib, and the engravings on, or the stamping on the Pelican just looks a lot more crisp, which I think is interesting, I suppose. Also, in terms of the shape of the nib, I think even compared to their number 6 nib, which is the nib they've been making, I think, the longest, the shoulders are very high up on this nib, which just gives it a different look, but I do think it looks quite good. We have a ebonite feed, and I would say the great thing about Santini is that they really do test and, you know, make all of their nibs to their customers' specification. So, you know, this nib is a phenomenal writer right out of the box. It didn't need anything. The ink flow is fantastic. It writes really, really nicely. The other thing I would say, again, going back to the trim, just noticing it catching the light, also, like on that Santini Libra, the plating quality or just the finish quality of the metal parts, you can kind of see it here when the light catches the edge of this clip. It's not amazing, and I can even feel some roughness when I run my finger over it. So you're getting a handmade pen here, and I do think that this is a fantastic value, even though the price is rather high. But for 810 euros, I mean, you're getting in-house made pretty much everything, but just be aware the fit and finish, you know, it's not going to be a Mont Blanc or an Aurora in terms of fit and finish. It's just sort of the nature of the beast there. Now, in terms of the size, it's quite a big pen, and I'll do some comparisons here. So looking at about 155 millimeters capped. Uncapped, we're looking at about 145. Posted, it does post, and it posts securely, but it becomes very long, about 185. So very, very long there. In terms of the weight, 27.23 grams. So it really it does have like a very solid feel to it. This does not feel like a cheap pen at all. Now with the cap, we're getting up to 43 grams. So pretty heavy for an ebonite pen, I think. But very comfortable. I have not Well, comfortable weight. I do have a comfort problem with this pen. Two comfort problems. I actually think it's pretty well balanced posted. I haven't been doing too much writing with it posted, but it does balance nicely in my hand. I find the trim ring here to be a little bit uncomfortable, but I just find the nib to be too big for my hands. Now, this is similar to the experience I have with the Pelican M1000. This nib, though, is longer than it, and the grip section is roughly the same thickness, so I find this pen to be a bit more uncomfortable. I wish I had gone for the number 6 nib, and I have since ordered a Santini with the number 6 nib, and I'm going to be letting this pen go, unfortunately, even though it just writes super nice. Let's do some comparisons and we'll talk about. So here it is with the Pelican M1000, and here it is with a Montblanc 149. The nib on the Giant is bigger than any of the nibs here. It's longer, it's fatter. The grip section on this pen is wider than on the Pelican, and I'm sorry, I forgot to do that measurement. So if we look at the grip section, 13.7, I mean, that is quite fat, to be honest. But just because the nib is so long, the geometry of it just doesn't work as well for me. Here we're looking at 11.6, the narrowest, getting up to 12.2. And then, a pen that I find very comfortable is the Montblanc 149, which is 13. I think just the combination of the length and the thinness of this nib, it just doesn't feel comfortable to me where this pen does. And I will say that the Pelican M1000 is also more comfortable for me, although less so than the Montblanc 149. Boy, that seems like a very roundabout way of talking about this, so I'm sorry for that, but seeing it here with these other pens, you can just see this really is a massive pen. I think if you have bigger hands, or if you're somebody that finds the M1000 super comfortable, you're probably going to be okay with this pen. I think it's a really nice pen for the price to get these specialty nibs that are handmade, in-house, tested. They work perfectly out of the box, which is something I can't always say about Pelican or Montblanc. It's a pretty compelling package. I just wish it fit me a bit better. For the writing sample, I'm going to be using a Papermind Mitsubishi bank paper notebook. These notebooks are excellent with fountain pens, and for Blake's Broadcast viewers and subscribers, you can get 10% off with code BB10 at checkout. So this is a Santini Giant number 8. Oops. And this is their flexy cursive italic. And we're going to try some fast writing. Flawless performance. In terms of flexibility, well, first let's just see the standard. It's a pretty subtle cursive italic. The point is not that big, but then we can, start applying some pressure here, and we really get quite a bit of line variation. And we can get that in the writing too. Oops, see, it didn't skip there. I mean, I'm really pushing on the nib to make this happen. So what I would say is, if we go normal writing, in normal writing with normal, I don't know what I'm writing, with normal pressure, there really isn't too much line variation. You get a little bit, and there is some, kind of bounce to it, but it's not huge. So I think it, Calling this a flexy cursive italic is correct because it is very, very soft, but it's takes a little bit more pressure than I would like, although I think the flexi term is fair. Now, in terms of reverse writing, I don't think there's too much point in doing that. It is actually smooth, but the line difference is pretty small. Overall, I really think that this is an excellent nib. I just wish it was a bit more comfortable for me. So what are my pros and cons for the Santini Giant fountain pen? Well, I like that this pen is made all in-house in Italy. You have a fantastic selection of nib options that are customizable. These pens are essentially made to order, so they can make adjustments, specific to you. We have a flexible, or a flexi rather, cursive italic nib, which I think is a nib that is not available from any other pen manufacturer that I'm aware of. It's very nice. The nibs are made in-house. The body feels really nice. I would say the ebonite is pretty well finished. They're all limited editions of 33 pieces. And I think looks-wise, this pen is pretty good overall. And it has a quality feel to it, and it writes really, really well. Now, in terms of cons, for me, unfortunately, the comfort wasn't there for me. This nib is too big. I think if it had a fatter grip section, and it already does have a fat grip section, but if it was even fatter, it would be more comfortable for me. So unfortunately, this is a pen that I think is really, really nice, but didn't end up working for me. Other things, the typical Santini things that I don't love, fit and finish on the metal parts, including the nib, they're not a wow for me. They could be better, but again, it's a handmade, kind of made to order product. It's not Mont Blanc where they're churning out, thousands every day or whatever. So I think that can be forgiven a little bit. Don't love the design of the clip. It just feels a little fat to me. It's also a very tight clip. I haven't tried clipping it on anything, but it's really, really tight. I also think that the piston knob on here does not really match the rest of the body at all, which I think is unfortunate. The grip section also doesn't really match, but it's closer in color scheme to the body and the cap. I would like to see a little bit more attention to detail, but overall, for 810 euros, which no question is a lot of money, this is quite a nice pen. I do wish it worked for me. It didn't, so I'm going to be letting this one go. But overall, I think Santini is offering something very special here, something that does deserve some praise. And I'm excited for my new Santini that I ordered. I'm hoping that'll be the perfect model for me. But that's pretty much it. Do you guys have this pen? Do you like this pen? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like this video, please hit that like button. And if you want to see more fountain pen, paper, and ink videos, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much, and until next time.